I want to platinum every game in the Yakuza franchise, which means getting every trophy in all the mainline entries, all of the spin-offs, and even the original games on the PS2. And in this video, I'll be going for both the OG Yakuza 1 and Kiwami platinum trophies. Now you might be wondering, how can you platinum the original Yakuza when trophies didn't even exist before the PS3? Well, while there are no trophies on the PS2 version, the first and second Yakuza games were actually remastered for the PS3, adding trophy support. The only issue is that this remaster was only released in Japan, but if you see my video on Yakuza 0, I think you know where I'm going with this. But before we get to that, it's time to go through the story that kickstarted this legendary franchise all the way back in 2005. Yakuza 1 starts off 7 years after the events that took place in 0, with Kiryu once again running a debt collection job. The circumstances are a bit different this time though, as instead of being a Dojima clan grunt, Kiryu is the lieutenant advisor of the Dojima family and close to having a family of his own. Everything seemed to be going well for Kiryu. He became a household name in the Yakuza underworld and even managed to get the girl that he'd liked since childhood. Well, almost managed to. Unfortunately, Kiryu's story isn't filled with happy endings, so before he could reveal his true feelings to Yumi, she was kidnapped by Sohei Dojima. By the time that Kiryu arrived to save her, Nishiki had already put an end to Dojima. Rest in peace. With Nishiki's little sister being close to an important surgery, Kiryu decided to take the fall for the murder of Dojima and would spend his next 10 years in the joint. During this time, he would be attacked by an assassin sent from the Tojo clan chairman himself, while also being expelled from the clan. After being released from prison and making our way back to Kamurocho, we set out to find a club called Stardust to discuss everything that has happened with Kazuma, but are instead immediately greeted by Majima, who is looking for a fight. This would only be the first of many, because in order to get the Dragon of Dojima Returns trophy, we only need to reach max rank in the Majima Everywhere system. When I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. In a hurry to get to your next objective? You get chased by Majima. Walking down the street, minding your business? Time to get searched by Officer Majima. Want to relax at the club with a nice hostess girl? Yeah. Oh. There's Miss Majima. Wood. Fighting some random street punks, but not without Majima. He's above you, below you, making references to other games, doing whatever this is. This first encounter, however, is not one that we are meant to win, because after spending
10 years in the joint,
Kiryu became
a fucking pussy.
We do eventually make our way to Stardust. We learn that the third chairman of the Tojo clan was murdered after 10 billion yen mysteriously went missing from the Tojo clan safe. And after helping Kazuki and Yuya fight off some of Shimano's goons, Shinji appears to take us to Sarah's funeral, where we can finally meet Kazuma. Kiryu's reunion with his dad is short-lived though, as Kazuma is suddenly shot, with Kiryu being accused of being the gunman. We're now forced to fight our way through the entire Tojo clan, including one very long and annoying fight against Captain Shimano. What the fuck? After defeating Mr. Potato Head, we managed to escape the clan by car, and it turns out the guy driving the getaway vehicle was Detective Date, the same man who locked Kiryu up 10 years ago. With Date currently investigating the murder of Sarah and Kiryu looking for Yumi, the two of them form an unlikely alliance.
Did we just become best friends? Yup!
Kiryu decides that the best place to start his search for Yumi is at Serena, where Reina tells us of a woman named Mizuki, who actually claims to be Yumi's sister. She directs us to a bar called Bacchus in order to find more info on Mizuki, but the place was completely dead. Except for this young girl Haruka. She was apparently there looking for her mother, who just so happened to also be Mizuki. Haruka eventually leads us to the secret bar atop of the Millennium Tower called Ares, and upon arriving we are greeted by a new threat. The Omi Alliance. The Omi wasn't there for Kiryu though, but instead they wanted to take Haruka as retaliation for Yumi taking the 10 billion yen. And of course, Kiryu wasn't having any of that. With Ares only bringing us more questions than answers, Kiryu decides to try and find the legendary informant that is rumored to stay in West Park. So after a less than friendly welcome by a bunch of homeless guys in a cramped bathroom and a stroll through the underground red light district, we meet the florist, aka Kage. He definitely lives up to his legendary informant status, as he's not only tapped into every surveillance camera in the city, but also has men on every street gathering additional information.
Color of a hostess's panties. Huh?
But in order for Kiryu to get any of this info, we must first do a job for Kage. Usually doing a job for a shady individual in Kamurocho would lead to some questionable outcomes. But all that Kage wants us to do is just defeat Discount Big Show, a Wash Muay Thai champion, and the current Underground Coliseum champion.
You gonna squeal like a bitch, motherfucker. Let me ask you something. Do you even listen to yourself when you open your mouth?
Which is honestly nothing more than a light warm-up for the Dragon of Dojima. Staying true to his word, Kage informs us that he believes Nishiki was the one responsible for killing the third chairman, and that whoever recovers the 10 billion will become the fourth. He also receives a call that Date is currently getting his ass whooped by the homeless people because they found out he's a cop.
Tonight, boys. Kill his ass. Yeah. Put him out of his misery. I suggest you listen to me.
Didn't you say they want to be cannibals?
Why the fuck would we
Holy
listen to
shit!
you?
After saving him, we learn that Haruka has been kidnapped by Majima in order to once again get us to fight him. Oh my god. This next chapter is basically a filler, with Kiryu taking the time to help out his new friends with their fatherly duties. And even though Kiryu himself knows nothing about being a dad, yeah.
Saya, I'm a horrible father.
Slap her again. He manages to help Kage and Date stop being such deadbeats.
Kazuma.
Getting back to the main plot at Serena, Date reveals that Mizuki's body was found in the Tokyo Bay, and Kiryu decided it would be best to keep this from Haruka. This ultimately causes her to run off due to their secrecy and get kidnapped yet again by another mysterious group. And after taking them all out, just as one of the members of this new group was about to reveal their identity, a retreating member silenced him. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer to figure out what other party is in play. After leaving Haruka in Date's care, Kiryu goes back to Serena to meet with Nishikiyama for the first time since that fateful night 10 years ago. Nishiki reveals that not only was it his men that killed Mizuki, but he was the one that shot Kazuma at the funeral. With the realization that their relationship as sworn brothers was irreparable, Nishiki sends a group of men to kill Kiryu. While trying to keep a low profile in town, Kiryu overhears rumors of an incident that occurred in West Park. When we get there, Date is once again laying down on the job. And you can probably guess what happened to Haruka at this point.
The guys that took Haruka, they're part of a gang. Gang?
So we beat up a bunch of the lowly gang members that attacked West Park, who then give us a location of their leaders inside Club Debola. Debola? Debola? I don't know how to say it. Turns out though, that they were actually hired by yet another new group, the Snake Flower Triad. Kiryu apparently has history with this group too, because we get a flashback of him being tortured by them 12 years ago before being saved by Kazuma. Date, being the good little chauffeur he is, takes us to the Triad headquarters, and after fighting through waves of highly equipped enemies... I'm so annoyed. I'm so annoyed. I literally found that after I killed the last enemy. We make our way to Haruka, but in order to free her, we need to defeat an enemy from our past. Bitch! We couldn't celebrate our victory for too long though, because the police showed up and decided to arrest Kiryu for kidnapping Haruka. Funny the fuck? Since the police refused to release Kiryu, Date showed up and freed him himself. And while driving away, reveals that the body that was found in the Tokyo Bay wasn't actually Mizuki. And the mysterious group that was responsible for kidnapping number 2, actually the MIA, which is basically a group that reports directly to the Prime Minister. There wasn't much time to process all this information though, because the remaining members of the Triad were in pursuit, and heavily armed.
The controls are so bad!
Aside for the Majima Everywhere system, Kiwami is almost a one-to-one remake of the original game story-wise. And while I personally think adding this system took away from Majima's character, as it just made him seem weirdly obsessed with Kiryu instead of being the wild card that he is, there was one other piece of added story content that actually improved the character. If you've played Yakuza 0 before coming into this game, it doesn't really make sense for Nishiki to completely turn his back on Kiryu and everyone close to him just because the girl that he liked chose Kiryu instead of him. And even if you haven't played 0, it still seems like a pretty lame reason. But Kiwami fixes this by filling in the gaps of what happened to Nishiki while Kiryu was in prison all those years. To sum it up, Nishiki was given his own family with Kiryu in prison, but was constantly compared to him and disrespected by even his own men. The main thing driving him was his little sister and doing everything he could to save her. But when he realizes that there was nothing more he could do, he's on the verge of giving up. Just before taking his own life, at the start of chapter 10, Nishiki has his Joker moment.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
Rest of the chapter, we're trying to find Reina and Shinji who are on the run because it's revealed that Reina has been leaking information to Nishiki, and in an attempt to make up for it, she tries to shoot Nishiki. So after fighting through countless enemies—
Ah, damn! Fuck you.
we make our way to the top of this abandoned building, only to discover that we are once again too late. After winning the battle against Arase, Shinji gives us Yumi's ring and tells us with his final words that Kazuma is safe with his girl. With only a name to go on, we regroup with the team where Kage says that Akemi could possibly be the #1 girl at the soapland called Shangri-La. The only way to get into this soapland though is with an exclusive membership card. So after some back and forth between a couple hostess clubs and beating up some more triad members, we finally get to speak with the guy that has the membership card. With the card in hand, we go back to West Park and get Haruka before making our way to Shangri-La. I know it might seem questionable bringing a young child into a soapland, but I think we can all agree at this point that it's better than leaving her with Date.
Man, why are you out in the street walking with a little girl? She's literally a target, bro.
When we make our way to Akemi's room, she reveals that Kazuma has once again been moved, when suddenly this happens. After defeating Majima for the last time, in the story that is, because we're still not close to max rank in Majima everywhere, it was now time to finally reunite with Kazuma. Upon arriving at Terada's yacht, Kazuma reveals the full truth about Yumi and her sister, and it turns out that her sister never even existed. Yumi was so traumatized from that night 10 years ago that she lost her memory and ended up getting married to this man named Jingu, with whom she had Haruka with. Now you might be wondering, who exactly is Jingu? Well, he's none other than the head of the MIA, aka the group that is trying to kill Yumi and Haruka. And the 10 billion yen that everyone has been going crazy trying to find, it was actually his money that he laundered within the Tojo clan. When Yumi gained her memory back after a failed assassination attempt on her and Haruka, she devised a plan alongside Kazuma and Sarah to steal Jingu's money, and ever since then has been living as Mizuki in order to keep her and Haruka safe. But just as Kazuma finishes telling us all of this, Shimano pulls up with his whole family to take us out. With some help from the Kazuma family, Kiryu was able to take down Shimano's, but he couldn't just take the L. With Kazuma knowing he won't be able to survive his injuries, he hands Kiryu Sarah's will, which names the next Tojo clan chairman. And in his story full of plot twists, he drops probably the heaviest one of them all.
いいんだ、おやさん。俺にとっちゃ、おやさんが本当の親父でした。
Despite Kiryu having a heavy heart, there was no time for grieving, because in order to carry out both Sarah and Kazuma's will, we still needed to defeat Jingu. But before heading into the final fight, we must first train in order to be worthy of the title of Dragon of Dojima. So we beat Majima about 50 times to get to a B rank. Completely mastered the Kamaki style. Did some training that Yujiro would approve of. Not once, but twice. Became the strongest fighter, winning all the tournaments in the Underground Coliseum.
One more taco drop. GG's, my trophy.
And helped enough people around Kamurocho to get the XP needed to unlock every skill and become a master of body and soul. And after beating Majima about 100 more times, we finally reached Triple S rank, where we get a call from him that it's time to settle things once and for all. The Dragon of Dojima returns. With Kiryu being back to full strength, we get Haruka and fight our way to the top of the Millennium Tower, where we finally get to reunite with Yumi. This would however be another bittersweet reunion, because shortly after, Jingu would appear by helicopter to get back the 10 billion that was taken from him, and to erase his former family. Even with the odds seemingly stacked against them, Yumi was determined to do whatever it took to keep Jingu from gaining power, and reveals that she has the bar rigged with explosives. With Yumi and Haruka out of the line of fire, Kiryu reveals the contents of the will left to him by Kazuma.
With my life, I am the 4th chairman of the Tojo clan. Kazuma Kiryu! Step the fuck up. It's time to die.
Alright, there's one. There's 2. There's 3.
With Jingu out of the way, there was just one last opponent.
He did it! He said the thing! And he might be right.
Now that Kiryu had defeated his sworn brother, it seemed like everything was finally settled. We get a nice little moment with Yumi, we're about to destroy all the dirty money in the safe, and then... Oh, come on.
Haruka! Haruka! Yumi! 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 しっかりしろ。大丈夫か？錦！最後のけじめくらい俺につけさせろ。やめろ。やめるんだ。錦！錦！
With everyone that Kiryu loved now being dead, he was ready to give up and spend the rest of his life in prison. But Date reminds Kiryu that he still has something, or rather, someone to fight for. So after Kiryu retires as Tojo Clan chairman immediately, he sets off to start a new life with Haruka, and the story for Yakuza 1 comes to an end.
Alright, so I'm not sure what happened to my original footage, but here are my stats for my first playthrough on normal. And then here's the trophy for completing the final chapter on my account. It's on my alternate account because I have done this game before. And then I'll even make a little trophy sound for you.
Even though the story has come to an end, to get the platinum, this was only half of the battle. Just like in Yakuza 0, you need to complete 100% of the completion list for the trophy Perfectionist. This trophy by itself is a long and at times frustrating grind, but there's actually one more system that I haven't mentioned yet. Haruka's request.
Yo, you're underage, you can't be at the table.
The reason why I didn't finish Kiwami's story with 100% completion like I did with Zero is because besides the fact that there are missable sub-stories in this game, there's a whole list of stuff that we need to complete in Premium Adventure, mainly being Haruka's request. The way this works is, while walking around with Haruka, she'll request something that she wants Kiryu to either do or buy for her.
And go get you a job and go buy you one.
These requests start off as pretty much just fetch quests, but as you start ranking up, the requests get progressively more demanding. And just like with Majima Everywhere, you need to obtain the max rank on Haruka's request, which means completing all 37 of them. You'll be required to play almost every minigame at least once while doing these requests. So I figured this would also be the perfect time to go for all the minigame completion points and trophies. Which brings us back to here. 17 years later, and Fighter is still commentating the Pocket Circuit races, but it turns out he's actually engaged and needs to find a successor so he can take over his family's tofu business. After getting help from some old friends, we're able to convince Takuma to become Fighter's successor if we beat him. But I'm not gonna lie, I struggled with Pocket Circuit racing this time around.
No, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, it was free.
I did eventually manage to win every race, earning this trophy.
Give me my trophy. The Dragon of Pocket Circuit Reborn, baby.
Pocket Circuit Racing wasn't the only minigame that RGG decided to add from Zero into Kiwami, but I really wish it would have been. For some ungodly reason, they also decided to bring back the Japanese Catfight Club minigame. Except they just reskinned it into a game called Mesuki.
Oh god, I was not ready for that.
Which is apparently played by children.
I don't believe that is a children's game, sir.
In all honesty, this minigame was a lot easier in Kiwami because instead of being purely RNG based, you can now choose which card you go into a fight with. The card your opponent uses is always the same, so if you plan accordingly, it shouldn't take too long to beat all rivals for this trophy.
Just don't pop the trophy now, because I don't want all that on the screen. Thank you. Oh, okay. They're under the Mesuki. One against all rivals in Mesuki.
One of the only minigames that aren't a part of Haruka's request is everyone's favorite, Mahjong. To be fair, I completely understand her not knowing how to play considering she's only 9. But there are some other trophies associated with Mahjong. Remember when we were training with these ladies earlier? Well, before getting to that point, we of course went out on a date. But not just any date. We went out for a nice game of Mahjong. No way, dude, let's go. That was my first game. I didn't even use a cheat item or anything.
Sexy Ron, baby. I definitely enjoyed my date. That was a great date.
This of course wasn't the only completion point required, but something else that this game has that Zero doesn't is cheat items. These one-time use items essentially guarantee you a winning can in whatever game that you use them for, and they make the minigame grind significantly easier than Zero. Some games will of course still be a bit of a grind, but with me essentially being the greatest Mahjong player to ever exist, I finished all the requirements here in no time.
Sure. Whatever that is.
Every other minigame is either made trivial due to cheat items, or I already covered in the Zero video, so if you want to see any tips on those, make sure to check that video out after this one. But after getting a score of over 1200 and batting on hard,
that shit was definitely ass, and you should definitely be shaking your head, but it's good enough to finish Haruka's request, so it's good enough for me. Mr. Master. Obtain EX rank on all of Haruka's requests. So I was confused at first why I didn't get the trophy for completing all minigames whenever I literally have 100% completion of minigames on the completion list. But apparently there's one more minigame that doesn't show up here that we need to do, which is at Club Asia. Please leave.
Now that all minigames in Haruka's request are complete, it's time to do those missable sub-stories that I mentioned earlier. Now while these sub-stories do become locked after a certain chapter in this story, Thankfully, you don't need to do another playthrough to complete them because they're available in Premium Adventure. Not only would you miss out on the trophies for that individual sub-story, but it would also lock you out of 3 other trophies for completing all sub-stories, defeating a Mon, and 100% completion. Surely this isn't something that would cause us any trouble later on. There's a total of 7 of these missable sub-stories, with 3 of them having to do with characters that appear in later games. You have to walk into a trap set by Miss Dojima, who wants answers on her husband's murder, take a young boy that passes out to Dr. Emoto, try to convince this guy not to jump, even though I wish they would both do it.
Then jump together.
The last 4 sub-stories all involve us dealing with some sort of scam. This bum here is surprisingly a prized boxer who is being forced to throw his next match.
I'll beat your fucking ass.
So after he apologizes for being a bitch, we defeat the bookie and allow him to have a fair fight. One thing that confused me after learning that Yumi never actually had a sister was just whose body was that they found in the river. But this next sub-story actually answers that question because the manager of this bar tried to rip off Aries by naming his bar Perry's and making the bartender go by the name Mizuki, with the same tattoos. For this sub-story, Yuya insists on us coming to watch his girl dance. When she finishes up, the next girl is the one to really steal the show. Turns out it was an assassin from the Tojo clan, and while fighting him, Yuya and his girl were kidnapped, so of course that means we need to save them.
Kiryu-san, 何かお礼したいんですけど、今こんなものしか。
We are not buying the OnlyFans.
The final sub-story honestly doesn't seem like a scam at first. You come across a girl being harassed by a drunk, and after helping her, she'll just want to go get a drink with you. This is where if you didn't know any better, you'll wake up on the side of the street with your pockets a little lighter. However, if you continuously refuse to take the drink, it'll be revealed that it was actually a scam from the very beginning. Of course, with every other sub-story completed, that only leaves us with one thing to do. Going into this fight, I didn't really prepare too much as I thought I could just get by spamming Tiger Drop, which actually seemed to work.
Fast as fuck, boy! Tiger Drop faster.
Until Joe pulled out a surprise phase 2.
You good? Wanna talk about it? Oh, Mad Dog style. Please no combo. Oh my god.
But after having to use almost every healing item in my inventory,
I don't think I was prepared for this at all.
I managed to beat Joamon on my first attempt.
One more. So we got all the gear items now. Completed the last sub-story, which means we should get the trophy. Story of my life, complete all sub-stories. So after traveling 100 kilometers on foot, we finally have enough completion points. We go talk to Bob over here. Get the last weapon we need to get 100 on the completion list, which will also give us 100% for the trophy perfectionist.
Having 100% everything in our first playthrough, it was now time to climax.
What?
Out of all the Yakuza games I've platinumed, for some reason I remember Kiwami having the hardest climax battles. But honestly, besides for a couple of the Proving Ground fights,
Okay. I was not familiar with your game, I apologize.
this was more so time consuming than it was challenging.
Nope, SCGs.
That being said, it only took me 3 hours in total. It could have been a lot faster if not for Proving Ground 6.
How many guys over there? Just the one? Oh no, there's 2. There's 3. Shit. What? No, that's cheating! That's cheating! No! Don't grab me.
But after completing all 30 battles, all we needed was one more trophy to get the platinum. This final trophy, while being the second most rare in the game, was essentially just a victory lap. Beating the game on Legend is a trophy that is in most Yakuza games, requiring you to beat the game on the hardest difficulty. And while this proved to be a bit of a challenge in Zero, due to various escort missions where your companion would almost immediately fall over, there aren't any of those missions present in Kiwami. Not only that, but Legend Mode is essentially New Game Plus, because all gear and stats from your first playthrough actually carry over into this run. Which is why I believe the more accurate description of this trophy is completed the game in Tiger Drop mode. He gets a Tiger Drop, you get a Tiger Drop, everyone gets a Tiger Drop. If they weren't getting Tiger Dropped, I was using the War Talisman to spam heat actions. For big mob fights, I would use the Calming Towel paired with a sword to quickly wipe them out, since I had a skill that makes your weapon durability not decrease when in a calm state. The only thing that could maybe stop me on this run was the highway chase. But honestly, Faye should just sign me because I could not miss and beat it on my first attempt. After only 2 hours, I was already back on top of the Millennium Tower. All I had to do was beat Jingu's goons,
Dude, I got fucking Goku and Vegeta beating my ass.
Jingu himself, and finally show the Shikiyama that he's the one that is a
fucking pussy.
Dragon of Legend? Beat the game in Legend mode? And Kiwami. Yakuza Kiwami Platinum.
Kiwami's Platinum may be over, but there's still one more Platinum we have to get before this video ends, because remember, I want every Yakuza Platinum. Now, as we've established earlier, the original Yakuza doesn't have trophies, but I still played that version on my very real PS2 that I definitely own. I used this English playthrough as sort of a guide for my Japanese playthrough, and I made one grave mistake going into this Platinum specifically. Before even coming up with the idea to do both games, I checked PSN profiles to see how long it took some people to get the Platinum for OG Yakuza 1, and saw that the fastest time was only 12 hours. I thought to myself, there's no way a game from 2005 could have that much content, and I've played a lot of Yakuza 1 at this point, so it shouldn't take me but a day also. Yeah, it took a lot longer than one day. Going for the Platinum in this game showed me just how similar the remake was to the original, because not only is the story the same, but there are most of the same sub-stories and just as many. All of the side content in Kiwami, also in the original. I essentially had to do the entire game again, but by the time I realized this, I was already locked in. I'm obviously not going to go through the story again since it's literally the same game, just less pixels. But for beating the story, we get 13 out of the 50 trophies. And now, I just want to say, I still love this game. But I feel like this is a good time to bring up exactly why this was probably the most unenjoyable,
Alright, this is lame, bro.
soul draining, and pressing the same 4 buttons for hours, straight up miserable Platinum experience that I have ever had the displeasure of going for. What is the #1 most hated type of trophy amongst trophy hunters? Multiplayer trophies. But what is #2? Missable trophies, which is damn near half the trophies in this game. While there isn't any trophy for 100% completion in this game, as there is no completion list, you still need to do and collect almost everything for separate trophies. Opening every coin locker, well, certain keys are in locations that you cannot revisit. Ordering every item in every restaurant. There's a bar that closes after a certain chapter. Remember all the sub-stories that we went over in Kiwami? Not only is each and every single one of them missable, but you can also fail a sub-story, locking you out of the Platinum. And to top it all off, there is no premium adventure. So if you miss something, you better have a backup save close, or else you could have to replay hours for just one mistake. This definitely did not happen to me multiple times while going for this Platinum. There are, however, some miscellaneous trophies that are actually easy to get, such as bumping into 1,000 people in the city, using every taxi route, and a good bit of the combat related trophies. And while all of the combat trophies are unmissable, they can be a grind if you don't keep them in mind from the beginning of your playthrough. The two that I believe to be the hardest are for defeating 3 enemies in one fell swoop.
Moment of truth. Oh, I got it. Okay, cool. and then defeating 25 enemies in a row without getting hit. With how the enemies like to gang up on you though, I feel like this one's almost impossible without saves coming. Minigames are unsurprisingly a big part of this platinum as well, but I was surprised to see that there are actually a couple minigames that weren't included in Kiwami, such as the Sean Watson simulator. What are you looking at? And Pachinko. I'm like 99% sure these minigames are in Kiwami too, so I'm curious why they felt the need to exclude them from one. But just like in Kiwami, you would get most of these minigame trophies while going for max rank in Haruka's request. And this trophy, man, almost made me completely scrap my whole idea for this video. Overall, this trophy works same as it did in Kiwami. Do some fetch quests for Haruka, she eats some food, makes you win her some toys from the crane game, and you play a bunch of games at the casino. What makes this trophy so bad is that you can actually lose points if you get too far away from Haruka. This just slows this already long and tedious process down, because if you lose more than 60 points, it's impossible to reach the max rank. The addition of Pachinko also makes this miserable since this 9-year-old girl has a severe addiction to gambling and wants us to earn 3,000 medals in one sitting. Just getting 1,000 medals to unlock this trophy took about an hour. The slots are also already predetermined as soon as you start your spin, so there's nothing you can do except sit here for hours on end pressing the same couple buttons on repeat. That gave me like no points. Are you kidding? I hate you. I hate you so much. That took 2.5 hours to get like minimal points out of that. I got more points for just getting your fucking steam bun from the sword. But the final and by far the worst request from Haruka is in the batting cage. She'll ask you to visit here on 2 separate occasions. The first one, only wanting you to get 10 home runs in the easiest course. A very nice, easy request. But for this final request, she wants us to get 20 home runs on the hardest course. How is that too late? And the little trick that I used for Zero and Kiwami doesn't work here. At least not that I could tell.
No, he does literally nothing.
You could completely memorize the order of the speed of the pitches.
Oh, I'm so scared. I'm gonna choke, I know it. So slow, fast, fast, slow.
Oh, I knew as soon as I pressed the fucking button.
Oh, now everything's falling apart.
And it would still amount to nothing. After I don't even know how many tries, this happened.
Let's go. Let's go. That was so hard. There's no tell in this game like there is in Kiwami. You literally just have to time it. Triple S, baby. Give me my trophy. There it is. I guess like Haruka Experts, what it's called or something. I know it's triple S rank for Haruka. Fuck you. I hate you. You're going back to the orphanage.
These last few trophies all sort of went hand in hand. After maxing out our stats and learning all of Kamaki's skills, we were able to just barely win all tournaments in the Underground Coliseum.
All tournaments done!
Winning these tournaments granted us weapons that were crucial in defeating Amon, and upon defeating Amon, we earned 10 million yen, which unlocks this trophy for having at least 5 million. The final grind that we had to do for this platinum was completing all hostess missions.
Alright, that was the first hostess mission completed.
That 10 million yen that we just earned would help speed this process up exponentially, because not only is there a trophy for spending at least 300k during one session, but there's also 6 hostesses that we need to max out hearts on. And the fastest way to these women's heart is with Kiryu's wallet.
Now that you took all my money!
But after about 2 hours and 5 out of the 6 hostesses done, I realized a bit of a mistake I made. An oopsies, if you will. I was of course using a guide for these missions since I don't know nor care about what they're saying, but I skipped over the most important part of the guide where it says only get 1 girl to 10 hearts at a time, because the missions are glitchy. So just my luck, when I arrived at the spot where the last hostess mission was supposed to be, the girl wouldn't appear. It was honestly devastating after coming so close to the end just to be set back 4 hours of progress. While at first I was just gonna suck it up and slog my way through it all again, the thought of doing the Amon fight again made me quickly reconsider. And after some deep diving through some old Yakuza walkthroughs on YouTube, I discovered why the hostess wasn't where she was supposed to be. And the reason was because I can't read. I completely ignored the fact that she never sent me a message to meet her and was just standing there like a jackass. Let's get sexy. All the hostess missions finally done. Now it's time for Kiryu to go get checked. Hold on, it's one of my ladies. Yeah! With our 100% playthrough complete, and there being no legend mode in OG Yakuza, there was just one trophy left to get the platinum. We have to get an S rank in a battle review. 22 seconds. Still might be an S. S rank, which means we're gonna get the trophy. We're getting an S rank in a battle review, which means we got the platinum, and I'm off this game. 2 million likes and I'll do Yakuza 2.